My name is Kevin TCG, and these are my top 3 things I wish I knew before playing the Pokemon trading card game competitively as a casual. Number 1, jumping straight into shops. Number 2, organize your bulk early. And number 3, some of you might already do this, watch competitive YouTubers. Or study competitive players? So we'll go ahead and dive more into these 3 tips, as well as go over some extra, more general, broader tips after those. Let's get started. So number 1, jumping straight into shops. And what I mean is playing locals, like getting yourself familiar with your local scene. I've always visited, local card shops, but I really never played. And the perfect moment came about where I just decided to say, hey, why not? Let's go down. I'll bring a friend with me and we'll get into playing with locals. And I'm so glad I did it now as opposed to later. So I've always played the games very casually through TCG Live, or what it was known as online, or I'd play with my partner Coral because she's a collector too, and that was pretty much it. Now playing at locals, it opens up a whole new avenue of the trading card game for you, and if you're a collector first, it opens up a whole nother avenue for getting your cards. So the environment I play in, it's always meta, all the time. I'm very lucky to have such a very good competitive player base at my local shops. Not only because you get stomped on the weekly, no, you actually get better. You learn from your mistakes, and you're playing the best of the best each time. And that actually kind of helped me down the road, because when I played at my first ever regionals, I learned a lot from playing from my locals. I was able to apply it out there in the world from an outside competition and do pretty decently for myself. Plus, you get the opportunity to make new friends at these events. Now, I'm an introvert at heart. I went with my friend for my first tournament, but I eventually gained confidence to go alone, and very happy that I'm able to go alone now confidently, because I've got to know the people at the shop, I've got to know the local players week in and week out, and it's just a really good time just hanging out, playing Pokemon cards. Whether you have a friend to take with you or not, put yourself out there. Join your local league or join your local tournaments and get to playing. This kind of sounds like dating advice, just put yourself out there and have some fun. Tip number 2, organizing your bulk, now, if you haven't already. Now, leave her alone. Leave her alone. So I'm a collector first, player second, and let's be real, unless it's not a full art trainer card or gold card, we don't really care about trainer cards in general, especially that bulk like this. I don't really care for that too much, is what I would have said 3 years ago, up until I started playing. So once you're getting into the competitive scene, you kind of need to figure out what cards you have now. So go ahead and separate your cards by trainer, tool, and item, and stadium, because down the road you're gonna want to see how much you actually have and how much you can afford to build into the different decks you're going to be making. Trust me, it's better to do it sooner rather than later, because I have so many cards from the Sword and Shield era that are still in rotation that I want to use, but I just simply haven't had the time to, or the willpower to go to my storage unit, uncover all the bulk, and sort it all out. So what you have now in your immediate vicinity, sort it out and get to playing and get to building. I usually have one dedicated elite trainer box towards playable cards, especially the trainer cards. I usually tote that around when I'm building decks or bringing it to local shops and trading those around. Another key thing is that competitive players love to trade for those item cards or trainer cards in general, even if it's just a regular non-holo, or even if you have a reverse holo version of it. People will trade for it. They'll trade you random pulls that you might need to complete your collection. Plus, if you participate in tournaments, you get a little stamped promo card during prize packs for official Pokemon sanctioned tournaments sometimes, and that could be a nice little addition to your binder. I've definitely used prize pack cards in my trade binder, even if they weren't what you might think is a cool pull, a V or EX or full art card. Just simple stuff like Iono. People will trade for that. Tip number 3, Some of you might already do this. Watching competitive players on like YouTube or Twitch or really wherever you can, or even reading about them. Just being in the know of what the top players are doing. So there's like Azul. I honestly don't know other people. I keep my competitive pool small. I like who I like mainly because of the content they make. Let's see. Your Sneaker Talk, he's pretty cool. I honestly get a lot of, this kind of goes against my own advice, but I also get a lot of my information from my friends that I've met from locals, because they fill me in too, and they actually recommend a lot of players to watch as well. But if you aren't already, go ahead and watch competitive players. There's lots of variety. There's people who just stream their matches and you kind of dissect why they made their moves. And there's other players who review their matches and their recaps, kind of like what I do in some of my videos, where I kind of recap how the match went. I explain my decisions, I explain what my opponent did, and I kind of take notes and say, this is what I've done, this is what I should have done, or this is what I did and this is how I won, and things like that. Again, live streams are great, but it's not really my style, unless they have like casters announcing it, because I kind of have a hard time following and watching people play when they're just silent and shuffling and putting the cards on the board, because they already know what their opponent's doing, but it doesn't benefit the viewer if you don't really know what the metagame is. Plus there's also like Pokemon news channels like PTCG Radio. He's pretty fun. He talks about upcoming latest products and like cards that might shape up or shake up the meta. So those are my 3 tips on what I wish I knew before playing the Pokemon trading card game competitively as a casual. So here's some more general tips that I kind of also wish I knew. Experiment. Well, this is what I kind of decided in the beginning. I like the meta. The meta's meta for a reason, but experiment with non-meta decks. AKA, have some fun, build something funky, and test it against, your friends or in locals. A lot of my competitive content at the moment is focused on this guy right here. It's a rogue deck. It's based off of the Miraidon deck. It's called Roaring Miraidon. Long story short, 2 cards that don't really fit together in a deck, but I make it work. And I do pretty okay, and I'm very self-aware of it's not going far, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. Especially fun when you're playing opponents and they say, you have what in your deck? It does what now? A very important tip, is a financial tip, is save your money. So locals, sometimes they're free for tournament entry, sometimes there's a fee, and that fee goes towards the prize pooling of the top winner or the top 8 winners. In some cases, it might be $5 entry, 10, 20, 30. It all depends on the tournament. And it could rack up pretty quick if you go to weekly tournaments. Sure, $5 for every week for 4 to 5 weeks, that's under $30. But you never know, because you are at a card shop. You're probably gonna be spending your money on singles, sealed product, more sleeves. You never know what you're gonna run into. So mind your money. And also, I really wish I knew this at the beginning, and I probably should have put it up there in my top 3 things, but playing competitively or playing at locals is a huge time eater, especially if you work like a 9 to 5 like myself. It takes up your entire evening. So one of my locals starts at like 6 p.m. and sometimes I don't get home until 11 p.m. because there's just a lot of people who show up and we're all trying to get through the matches. Sure, you can drop early, but I like staying the entire time and kind of learning to get better. So those are my tips on what I wish I knew before playing the Pokemon trading card game competitively. Did I miss anything? Do you disagree? Do you agree with me? Let me know down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to leave a like for more videos in the future. With that being said, my name is Kevin TCG, and I'll see you guys next time. Adios.